So the UK government continues to crack down on the most pernicious forces in society. I speak, of course, of gender stereotypes. Advertising regulator to introduce new rule on gender stereotyping. The Advertising Standards Authority looks to tackle outdated gender roles. A new rule on gender stereotyping in advertising will be introduced next year to help tackle harmful and outdated practices, the regulator has said. Now, further into the article, you find out that the new rule will not ban all forms of gender stereotypes, with evidence falling short of calling for a ban on ads depicting scenarios such as a woman cleaning or a man doing DIY tasks. But the review found certain types of depictions were likely to be problematic. Well, say no more, the magic word problematic has been invoked, such as a woman having sole responsibility for cleaning up her family's mess, or a man trying and failing to undertake simple parental or household tasks. So no more useless bumbling male idiots. Here's an ad that the Daily Mail claims would be rejected under the new standards.
Oven pride, so easy, a man can do it. Just slip the racks into the unique cleaning bag, pour in the solution, seal, shake and let Oven Pride do its thing so he can do more. Then simply rinse with hot soapy water. Oven Pride, so easy, a man can do it.
Now, as much as I find this ad annoying and condescending, I don't want to ban it. If you think you can sell products with this kind of ad, then have at it. And if people want to object to it, then vote with your wallet and don't buy the product. It sends a clear message. But we live in the age where we have to be told what we can and can't watch because we'll be subliminally influenced by gender stereotypes. Here's another ad that violates the proposed new standards according to the Daily Mail.
Since their very first days, your baby starts to write their future. And breastfeeding provides them with the best start in life. Inspired by 30 years of research on breast milk, our researchers created Aptimal Follow-On Milk with its unique ProNutri Plus complex. If you choose to move on, it will help prepare your baby today for their tomorrow. Aptimal Follow-On Milk. Their future starts today.
So obviously every girl that watches this will think her only choice in life is to be a ballerina, and every boy thinks he has to be a scientist, regardless of whether she's even remotely coordinated or even if he's got the IQ of a golf ball. So if the girl was playing with an abacus and dreaming of being a scientist, and the boy was dreaming of becoming a ballerina, would that be okay? I have a feeling it would be celebrated as promoting diversity and inclusion. And who's the Advertising Standards Authority to assume the gender of these children anyway? And here's another one, just for good measure.
Perfect.
No. Sorry, could we just have a look at that one? Yeah.
Come on, you're all right. Just a little bit more. Come on.
I've got to break
Just
it.
gotta,
Ow! That way. Back, back. Quick, quick, in the car. Come on. Wake up! It's Christmas!
It doesn't just happen by magic. Behind every great Christmas, there's Mum. And behind Mum, there's Asda.
What's for tea, love?
Now, as with everything these days, there's a number of ways to be offended by this ad. You can think it stereotypes women by implying that they have to do all the work in preparation for Christmas, or you could be offended because you're the kind of dad who actually does at least as much, if not more, of the Christmas preparations. Or you could be an adult and realise that Asda is targeting women that do the bulk of the Christmas preparations for their households, which is actually an accurate stereotype. So what is the basis for this move other than asserting that these could be harmful stereotypes? Well, the Chief Executive of the Advertising Standards Authority, Guy Parker, gives us the answer. ASA Chief Executive Guy Parker said, while advertising is only one of many factors that contribute to unequal gender outcomes, we welcome CAP's decision to introduce a new rule on harmful gender stereotypes in ads. That's right, comrade, it's all about equality of outcome. And you don't have to prove it, you just assert it. And if you go to the 64-page report, it's riddled with the usual nonsensical talking points about gender inequality. For example, under the section Legislative and Public Policy Context, we are told there is increasing awareness of real-world harms that arise from gender inequality, which often attracts significant political and NGO attention. Examples include, but are not limited to, the gender pay gap, unequal representation of women on boards, mental health issues arising from body image issues in children and young people, male suicide statistics and femicide statistics. Now, I think the moment you invoke the gender pay gap as a source of inequality, then you lose all credibility and you should be ignored. It goes on. A 2016 poll of 1,000 British parents found that a significant majority wanted marketers to stop pushing gender stereotypes, and they have a footnote here to a story that claims British parents want marketers to stop pushing outdated gender roles. A clear majority of British parents want marketers to stop pushing gender stereotypes, with the concept of fixed roles within the modern family fading. An overwhelming 95% of British families feel marketers need more balance in their portrayal of the family unit, according to a new study from Haygarth and Flamingo, London. Well, that is an overwhelming majority, isn't it? But let's have a look at that report from Haygarth and Flamingo. 95% agree for a harmonious family life, you have to balance the needs of each member of the family with the needs of the family unit. Well, that's interesting because I don't see anything about British families' opinions on what marketers should do. And what if balancing the needs of the family unit means that because the breadwinner of the household works 6 days and 60 hours a week to provide his family with the lifestyle they enjoy, that his part-time working wife does the majority of housework and Christmas preparations to balance out the needs of the family unit? You see, the problem here is that these dishonest assholes don't count on people reading the footnotes and checking their bullshit. The Institute of Engineering and Technology put out a press release using parents, retailers and search engines to rethink the pink when considering children's Christmas presents, noting that the marketing of toys for girls is a great place to start to change perceptions of the opportunities within engineering. The toy options for girls should go beyond dolls and dress up so we can cultivate their enthusiasm and inspire them to grow up to become engineers. So girls' only toy options are dolls and dress up, apparently. Well, that's shitty. But here's the problem. This is Toys UK, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like Lego on display in the window, specifically targeted at girls. Does Lego qualify as dolls now? Here's their website. You can search by age, brand, category, latest films and price, but not by gender. This is Hamley's Toys. You can browse by all kinds of categories, but not by gender. They do have a dress-up and role-play section, and it features 2 boys, and none of the outfits have girls modelling them. This view has also been reflected in work done by Let Toys Be Toys, which takes the position that the stereotypes we see in toy marketing connect with the inequalities we see in adult life. Well, that's an easy position to assert, but how about providing some actual evidence that it's true? Oh, what's this? Yet another study showing that children as young as 9 months old prefer gendered toys. Who would have thunk it? Children as young as 9 months old prefer to play with toys specific to their own gender, according to a new study from academics at City University, London and UCL. The paper, which is published in the Journal of Infant and Child Development, shows that in a familiar nursery environment, significant sex differences were evident at an earlier age than gendered identity is usually demonstrated. The research therefore suggests the possibility that boys and girls follow different developmental trajectories with respect to selection of gender-type toys, and that there is both a biological and a developmental environmental component to the sex differences seen in object preferences. Well, fancy that. Let's just add that to the plethora of data on innate sex differences. Many UK politicians have registered an interest in the long-term effects of gendered advertising, particularly on children. A panel discussion at the 2016 LEAD conference discussed a preference for self-regulation to be forward-looking, with Chi Onwurah saying, Pink is a fantastic colour, but when it is the sole colour used to market to women, and particularly girls, and it's then identified with cooking and dolls, and that becomes the careers girls aspire to, it changes society. Again, some truth by assertion. But there's a slight problem with that. You see, here's a breakdown of occupation in the UK by gender. Now, these are 2008 numbers, but I doubt the gender breakdown has changed much since then. When it comes to chefs and cooks, 62% of them are male. How about bakers and flour confectioners? 64% male. Butchers, more than 90% male. Strange that I've never heard of the glass ceiling in butchery before. Overall, the food preparation trade is 65% male. So clearly this is a sign of gender inequality, and more cooking toys need to be targeted to young girls to address this injustice. And that's just a sampling of the unsupported claims and misrepresentations in this section of the report. Then there's a whole section on the evidence from academics and interest groups. Now, there are far too many studies to go over and check them, but I would note this in the section at the beginning. The literature gathered during this exercise suggests that there is no academic consensus regarding the origin of gender differences, and differences are likely to be a combination of innate differences determined by nature and those constructed by culture. Although the literature does not confirm the extent to which advertising can influence viewers or its role in constructing gender stereotypes, it does indicate that the media, of which advertising is a subsection, plays a role in reinforcing and encouraging conformity to these. And of course that's bad, because stereotypes, although we have no evidence for it, prevent us from achieving our communist aspirations of equality of outcome. But as Lee Jussum, a social psychologist and author of the book Social Perception and Social Reality, Why Accuracy Dominates Bias and Self-Fulfilling Prophecy, notes, 1. Stereotype accuracy is one of the largest and most replicable effects in all of social psychology. 2. The fact this is true has had almost no effect on the frequency with which social scientists claim, assume or imply that stereotypes are inaccurate. And he notes the very high proportion of studies that show high correlations on the topic of stereotype accuracy, and as you can see, it's particularly high for gender stereotypes. Now, just because stereotypes are mostly accurate doesn't mean that some aren't inaccurate and therefore harmful. But as Jussum notes in this rather lengthy paper, although errors, biases and self-fulfilling prophecies in person perception are real, reliable and occasionally quite powerful, on average they tend to be weak, fragile and fleeting. 2. Perceptions of individuals and groups tend to be at least moderately and often highly accurate. 3. Conclusions based on the research on error, bias and self-fulfilling prophecies routinely greatly overstate their power and pervasiveness and consistently ignore evidence of accuracy, agreement and rationality in social perception. The weight of the evidence, including some of the most classic research widely interpreted as testifying to the power of biased and self-fulfilling prophecies, is that interpersonal expectations relate to social reality primarily because they reflect rather than cause social reality. So stereotypes are more often than not just an accurate reflection of reality, and the idea that they are reinforcing or act as self-fulfilling prophecies is generally weak. And weak is the right description of the evidence for this push to eradicate allegedly harmful gender stereotypes from advertising in the UK. And the assumption that just because women are underrepresented in a particular occupation or university subject is necessarily a sign of gender inequality has absolutely no foundation. It's just asserted into existence. We have to get back to talking about equality of opportunity and accept that that type of equality will necessarily result in unequal outcomes.